YouTube, Spotify, and other music streaming sites are now firmly established as the preferred method of music consumption for listeners. It's important to understand how these sites deliver audio so you can give your listeners the best possible experience. You need to be aware of this. These sites adjust the loudness of songs to keep the playback level consistent across all tracks. What does this mean for you as an artist, music producer, or audio engineer? Before audio normalization and streaming sites, most music was compressed and limited to achieve maximum possible loudness. This is because we perceive louder songs to have clearer highs and a fuller low end than quieter songs. The unavoidable result of pushing loudness too much is that transients are lost, dynamic range is reduced, and distortion muddies the sound. When a loud track and a quiet track are normalized to the same loudness, the tonal balance comparison becomes unbiased. This means the louder track no longer sounds like it has more clarity or a richer bass. Now that loudness normalization is the default setting for streaming services, the super loud songs have lost their loudness advantage, and the flaws caused by over-limiting are obvious when compared to their more dynamic counterparts. So how should you respond to this? This new reality is a win for the quality and integrity of future music. You no longer have to sacrifice the character of your audio by making it as loud as possible to get noticed. Instead, you can create punchy, dynamic, and exciting music without worrying that it will sound weak next to other releases. So this being said, you most likely don't want to master your music quieter than the target playback level of these sites. Otherwise, the other tracks could have a loudness advantage over your song if a user has switched off normalization. You want to find the sweet spot where the technical details such as loudness, peak, dynamic range, and loudness range are just right for both the music and the streaming platform. I'm going to explain how to create a technically excellent mix. There are two fundamental measurements you want to keep in mind when creating a master for streaming platforms. Firstly, you need to know the loudness of your music measured in LUFS, which stands for Loudness Units Full Scale. Streaming platforms deliver music at around -12 to -16 LUFS integrated, with the majority of songs sitting around -14 LUFS. You don't have to create a master that's exactly -14 LUFS, but keep in mind that a loud song measuring -8 LUFS will get turned down by at least 4 decibels or so. So that 4 decibel reduction is headroom you could have used to create a more open, dynamic, and punchy sounding mix through applying less aggressive compression and limiting. Shoot for anywhere in the -10 to -16 LUFS integrated range to get a great dynamic result. This is where your musical judgment comes into play, as each song has its own loudness sweet spot. Keeping your short-term LUFS quieter than -9 LUFS is a great way to avoid artifacts and distortion introduced by a limiter. The second fundamental measurement is the decibels true peak of your music. Streaming platforms take your high-quality WAV file and they transcode it into a lossy format to allow it to stream faster to your listener's device. This transcoding causes the peak to increase. If you've not left enough headroom, this will introduce digital distortion. The louder the track, the more significant the clipping. Spotify recommends up to -2 decibels, true peak, of headroom for the louder masters. But if your music is around -12 LUFS or quieter, -1 decibels true peak should be enough. Now look, some argue against the advice I'm giving in this video, stating that pushing the limiter super hard is an essential step to achieve the character of their sound. They're incorrect. Grit, character, aggression, vibe, excitement, and all qualities attributed to loud masters can be achieved without pushing the loudness of the whole master. Often, the loudness hides the fact that their track is lacking in the traits I mentioned, leading to a disappointing sound on streaming platforms. If you want the kick and bass to pump aggressively and for the overall sound to have some soft clipping or distortion, introduce that processing on a per-channel basis and control it. You'll end up with a cleaner sound that translates better when it reaches your listeners' ears. Okay, now for some practical advice. Try this with your next production. Each streaming platform has slightly different playback loudness levels, but they're all in a similar ballpark. It's possible to get a great result across all streaming platforms using just one bounce. Next time you're preparing your final master for streaming platforms, try using levels by mastering the mix to help you aim for these technical specifications. Peaking around minus 0.75 to minus 2 decibels true peak. Loudness around minus 10 to minus 16 LUFS integrated, and not louder than minus 9 LUFS short term at any point during the song. So focus on the loudest section of your song for that. I have been giving this advice for several years, and I can't even count how many people have messaged me saying how great their songs are sounding now online. I really hope you get the same positive result.